Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Hello.
Hi, how are you guys doing?
Hi.
Hi. Okay, we've been having some technical difficulties as far as my part, but we're here. So that's great. Today we're going to be discussing the challenges and the difficulties we've been having navigating through COVID-19 as undergraduate and graduate students. Um, I want to say thank you all for joining us today. I want to say thank you to all our sponsors, and we're going to get right into it. Just give me a second. Okay, as far as the sponsors, I want to give a thank you to Golden V Inc. I want to give a thank you to Chocoella, and I want to give a thank you to Hope and Happiness and Community Empowerment Inc. Like I stated today, we're going to be discussing the difficulties and issues we've been having as undergraduate and graduate students with navigating through COVID-19. The purpose of this live is to discuss the issues that we've been having with the coronavirus and the pandemic, while facing unique and challenging issues, while continuing our education. Before we start the everything, I want to go ahead and give a 1 minute silence and the remembrance of 9/11. So if we can go ahead and give 1 minute silence for that. Thank you all for that. Thank you all for that. So the goal in this panel is to have a conversation and engage undergraduate and graduate and Haitian American students. We will have dialogues with the challenges we're facing as students as far as going through this pandemic. All these opinions is the opinions of the panelists, and it doesn't, it's not the opinions of the universities that they're attending. It's all their opinions. So I just want to state that before we get into the panel, I would like to have all the panelists introduce themselves briefly, state your name, what school you attend if you're a graduate or undergraduate student, and just a brief bio. I'm going to go ahead and start with Ern Pierre. Go ahead and introduce yourself, Ern.
Sure. My name is Ern Pierre. I'm born and raised in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. 2009, I moved to the Dominican Republic to study business. Due to unforeseen challenges, I quit with school or paused. And then, as I was trying to develop my professional career, I started working in the outsourcing industry, where I also co-founded Caribbean Outsourcing Group, which is a consulting firm to help folks who want to actually start a business in the Caribbean with a friend of mine. And then 2 years ago in 2018, I felt the need to actually continue my education. That's when I moved here to the U.S. I was awarded a scholarship from the Kentucky Christian University, which is in Kentucky, and I'm a, I guess, senior by credit, but I'm a second year, so I'll be graduating next year.
Okay, thank you so much, Ern, for your introduction. The next person we're going to have introduce themselves is Sammy. Go ahead and introduce yourself for me.
Hello, everyone. Do you hear me? My name is Sammy Lamy. It does rhymes. I was born in Little Haiti, in Miami, and I recently graduated from Florida International University. I received my Master's of Science in International Real Estate. For my undergrad, I attended Florida A&M University. There, I got my bachelor's degree in accounting. So for the first 5 years of my professional career, I was an accountant, and then did some stuff out in New York. Then decided to I went to NAAHP's conference in 2018, and it was actually sponsored by FIU. And that would actually inspire me to go back to school to obtain my real estate degree. So it's crazy how everything comes back full circle. Currently, I am working for a real estate development firm. As I said, I recently graduated in August, and I provide accounting services for a real estate development firm called Amacon here in Miami.
Thank you so much, Sammy. Thank you for joining us. The next panelist we're going to have, and forgive me if I pronounce your name wrong, is Ganaelle Joseph-Senatus. Did I say it wrong?
Very close.
Close.
My name is Ganaelle.
Go ahead and introduce yourself.
I'm originally from St. Mark, Haiti. I moved to Florida when I was 10 years old, and then I left for college in Rhode Island at Brown, where I have a degree in neuroscience. I took 2 gap years between undergraduate before applying to medical school. And I'm currently at the New York Medical College, and I'm a 4th-year student. I graduate next year, and I'm going to become a psychiatrist.
Thank you so much. Thank you for joining us. The next panelist we have is Sandina. Dominique? No, right?
Yeah, you got it.
Okay.
Hello, everyone. My name is Sandina Dominique. I was born and raised in Port-au-Prince, Haiti. I moved here about 6 years ago. I currently reside in Florida, and I am pursuing a bachelor's degree in public relations and advertising at Florida International University. And I am also the founder of the nonprofit Hope and Happiness Community Empowerment, Inc., where we serve underprivileged youth in Haiti.
Thank you so much, Sandina. And then the last panelist we have is Tesha Davilmar.
Hi. Yes,
Hi.
that was good. So yes, my name is Tesha Davilmar. I'm currently a 2nd-year medical student at Johns Hopkins University. I obtained my bachelor's degree at Florida International University. Go Golden Panthers. And yeah, so right now I'm currently a medical student. I'm interested in dermatology and adolescent medicine.
All right, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today. So let me go ahead and introduce myself for anyone who doesn't know me. I am Anith Benjamin. I am the founder and president of a nonprofit called Golden V Incorporated. I'm also a student. I'm a grad student at Barry University, studying public administration. I am going to be graduating December the 12th, 2020. Guys, pray for me. And I currently work in the nonprofit and social service industry. So thank you all for joining us and deciding to be a panel for this discussion. So we're gonna get right into it. Give me a second. Okay, so as we're getting into our academics, when COVID-19 happened, it affected students a lot. affected graduate students and undergraduate students. So with these challenges that came upon us as students, how were you able to overcome those challenges as students, undergraduate or graduate? I want to ask Sandina first. How did it affect your academics?
Right. So firstly, I should say that I don't like taking online classes. I like in-person classes because it just works for me. So one of the major challenges that I was faced with right ahead was when we transitioned to online, then I was forced to, staying at home and doing my classes there. Definitely, I had to get used to it because, like I said before, that's something that I'm not too comfortable with. So that was one of the major challenges, and I should say it's still one challenge that I am trying to get through right now, is just being online and everything being done virtually.
Thank you so much. And Sammy, what are your thoughts on virtual learning and the COVID-19 and the challenges?
Yeah, I have to agree with Sandina. I do not enjoy doing things online. But I think the first thing is a lot of my program was group work, so I had to use more technology, of course, in order to do my group work with my group online. It was also harder to do the work because it's like I'm doing work from home, I'm going to class from home, I'm doing everything from home. So not having that change of environment, that kind of, it wasn't cool. I'm in Miami, the library closed. I used to spend a lot of times in the library. Didn't have that anymore. But yeah, it's kind of like the new normal for now. So lucky me, I only had to deal with it from March to August. But I do feel with all my current students because I know it's not the easiest.
I understand. And there are some students who never took online courses before, never took anything virtually. And there are some programs that are a little bit more challenging to take online. Did anyone experience any issues with their program and taking classes online for the first time virtually and experiencing challenges as far as, the challenging programs that they're in?
I'll go. As for me, being in medical school, a big part of my identity is being a student. I've been a student since I was 2 years old in kindergarten in Haiti, and I've been nonstop. Some days I'm at the hospital 8 hours, 12 hours a day, walking around the hospital, and going from being that busy to doing nothing for a while before the schools could pick up and change their curriculum was very different. For me, for example, I haven't seen a patient in real life since February, and we're about September now. So there's a 7-month gap in which I'm not doing what I used to be doing. And one of the things that happened during COVID, because it had to, for safety of the students, is going online. So I had to learn all of surgery and all of neurology online.
Wow.
I know the content, but it's not the same as treating a person, learning how to treat a person, learning how to do a surgery in the hospital or being in an emergency room or an operating room. There's something that is lost in that you're not seeing someone getting the full experience.
Yeah, I completely understand. Anyone else experiencing any challenges as far as their program?
One of the biggest challenges. Go ahead.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, one of the biggest challenges I faced was actually trying to listen in a digital environment. It was very difficult for us. However, we figured out as early as possible, we had to develop these techniques in terms of how we would listen in this digital environment, such as we created as soon as possible an online community. Aside of class, when we were not being supervised by our professor, we would actually gather online and capitalize on each other's energy so that we could work and get it going. So, and it worked, and as of now, it's still working.
Thank you so much. And Tesha, you had something to say.
Yes, I just wanted to bounce off of what Ganaelle previously said, that it's definitely been difficult as a medical student not being able to interact with patients and develop those skills that are so important to becoming a physician. And on top of that, as a student, and this goes for undergraduates and other graduate students, you're expected to perform at the same capacity you were performing before, but now you're having to deal with a global pandemic and an increase in media attention to police brutality and all of these things that affect your daily life and emotional state. And I think one of the things that I really had to think about and focus on was taking care of myself mentally and making sure that the whole I guess, need to be as productive as possible during this time and taking advantage of being able to stay at home didn't really get to me, and that it was still important to take care of myself as well as do well in school and not try and like sink into that trap of productivity is number one when we're going through such a difficult experience.
Yeah, and because we're going through a lot of difficult experiences with COVID-19, pandemic, the police brutality, and things like that, what are some things that you have done that helped your progress with school? I'll get two people for this. I'll get Sandina. What are some things that you have done where you notice the challenges, but then you're implementing different things to help you gravitate to your academics?
So the first thing that I did was trying to figure out to manage my time. So actually during the pandemic, because I was home for work, my job closed, and then at school, I had to stay home all the time. So during the pandemic, I realized that I needed to find a way to manage my time better and to be more productive, because it felt like I had all the time in the world and I was just not getting stuff done. So I actually designed a planner to help me. So that helped a lot while I was creating it, testing it out. That's actually been a major help for me, actually planning my time and having everything written down, literally every single thing I have to do. That helped me getting all my stuff done. And also for people that have, we're all virtual now, checking, I don't know if you use Dashboard or Blackboard or whatever your school uses, checking that daily to make sure that I'm staying on track with my assignments and also keeping track with that in my planner. So that's been like my saver.
And Ern, you mentioned that you have the group chat. What are other things that assisted you with your challenges with COVID-19 in your academics?
Definitely, it was actually keeping myself motivated and keep stimulate my mental state. And one of the things that I did was I would actually listen to audiobook or podcast whenever I'd be working. That way, because with everything that was going on, it's as if you felt that the world stopped working. And for someone like me who wants to keep learning and knowing that I'm making progress, it's as if I feel like I was stuck somewhere and I wasn't actually moving forward. So what I did, even though when I was doing my homework or working, I would actually try to listen to an audiobook, whether it was on Scrib or Amazon. But I'll try to listen to something just to keep stimulate my brain in order to keep going. And it really helped.
Okay, thank you so much. So the next topic we're going to get into is international students. So with COVID-19, it has affected international students and the opportunities for students to study abroad. What are your thoughts on those issues? I want to get Sammy first. What are your thoughts on their issues with the international students' education and also U.S. students not being able to study abroad, or U.S. students studying abroad and having to come back to the States? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I mean, I think for the international students, I think because it's online, I don't know if they're allowing the international students to come in, but I think with that, it just allows more schools to open up to international students, I believe, personally. So now because it's online, so they can open up their doors more. As for the students in the United States that cannot study abroad, we have to stay safe. So with the whole global pandemic, I do understand, and I do agree with the safety precautions that a lot of these universities that are taking. Some people say take a gap year. Some people say move it to, prolong moving internationally. If you do still have the time, not studying abroad, excuse me. If you do, if it is possible, I would consider holding it off. I would not leave the dreams, because I know when we get back to normal, I'm sure there's going to be a ton of study abroad opportunities. But as for the international students, I know for a fact that there's just more programs that they can apply to now. That's just opening the doors because it's simply an online program. So,
and Ganaelle, what were your thoughts on that?
I guess there's a two level of difficulties in that there are some schools in which the remote work is submitting something to a website, where there are other programs or classes where you have to be face to face. So for someone international, when the school said, go back home, we can't be physically here on campus, people flew back wherever they were from, maybe California, Hawaii, or other countries. And let's say, for example, I have to be on the camera for a Zoom to see a patient at the hospital at 6 a.m. Someone in Hawaii, that's actually midnight the day before. So it's a disadvantage because not every school has students from the local area and people coming from far, far away, different countries, different states, and different time zones. And that is the difficulty that's navigating right now.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And Tesha, what are your thoughts on that?
It's definitely difficult for me to speak about this because I'm not an international student, so there are nuances that I can't speak to. But I definitely agree that given the time differences and especially given recent talk of policy changes in which international students won't be able to be let back in the country because their programs are fully online. I think those are definitely challenges that a lot of international students are concerned about and are really important to address. But yeah, there's not a lot that I can say to it because I'm not an international student.
I completely understand. And Ern, what are your thoughts on the issues with international students and studying abroad?
As an international student and having friends not only who are students that are studying here in the U.S. and who are studying in other countries who came back to the U.S., it was a very stressful situation. First of all, even though after the current administration passed the order, as much as the order was reversed, but there were still some issues that I and other international students were navigating through, and it was very, very stressful. For instance, let's say if you have a class that's high, if you're taking a load of classes and there's a certain amount of class you have to take in order to be considered a full-time student. If not, you won't actually be pardoned. And in other words, you'll have to actually go back home. And as a Haitian, knowing what the current state of our country, it actually disrupts the whole I guess ecosystem, because not only we're being affected because of the financial situations in our home country or our sponsors, and as international students, you are very limited to the resources that you have, and it's been very difficult. But what I'm very grateful for is having an institution like the NAAHP that actually provided the resources in the network that gives us a sense of security or that safety net that we can pursue our education. And to say that we are resilient would be an understatement.
I completely understand. I'm going to go ahead and go to the next topic, but I'm going to get Sandina first since she didn't get to speak on the international students issue. So the next topic is finances and financial hardship. So some students who are technically homeless when the pandemic initially started were affected by the COVID-19 because they didn't have homes. And also some parents who may no longer be in a position to pay tuition, COVID-19 affected the finances of some families. So with these challenges with students who are homeless, with students who are unable to pay for school, Do you feel that universities and the policies that that are in place, are they taking the necessary steps to assist students who are in financial need and hardship? Were you guys in any financial hardships, and did you see your university assisting in that way? Sandina, you can go ahead and answer that question first.
Right. As for me, at Florida International University, we did have the CARES Act that was passed, I think, around April or May. And I know that that did provide some financial support to students. And that was for the summer. I'm not sure it continued or it moved over to the fall semester. For instance, for me, with my financial aid, I'm only able to take a certain amount of classes. And I stopped working when the pandemic hit. So that because of that, I couldn't take, extra classes this semester because I would have not been able to afford it. So I feel like a lot of students went through that same situation. Personally, I know students who do pay for their own classes and they lost their jobs, so they weren't able to take. Some people weren't able to go back to school at all, and some people had to go from full-time students to part-time. But I would say that definitely depends on your school, because a certain school does have programs that can help students like that. To any students who may be going through any financial hardship right now, I would say definitely reach out to your school to see what may be available, and reaching out to different student organizations to see what help that you can get.
And I would like to get Sammy on this topic with the financial hardships and students who are in financial need. What are your thoughts on that? Did you experience anything? Do you know any programs that could assist students who are in financial need right now?
Yes, just like Sandina said, if you go to a public institution like I did, FIU public school, we did receive the CARES Act. So we were allowed to apply through our student financial aid department, and they were giving out grants for us. I think the best bet in your community, try to figure out whether it's a community bank or whoever is helping out. There's normally within your community somebody there since coronavirus happened that helps the community with students. So I would definitely speak to whoever at the school. Utilize my resources like LinkedIn, any community banks, anywhere, any United Way, any of these organizations may have money to help you, or some kind of finances to help during these times. Again, FIU did receive the CARES Act, so a lot of students that I know were able to apply. They didn't cut tuition, so I know they didn't do that. Tuition stayed the same, but we did get some grants, so it helped us. But again, I went to a public university, so I don't know if it's the same when you select a private university.
Thank you so much. And Tesha, what are your thoughts on this topic?
Yeah, just to echo what's already been said, my university also received funds from the CARES Act, which was very helpful for students that were affected by the pandemic. And I think something that was really important that they did was that they took into consideration that some students who may not have been in need before, or who did not have a certain EFC level that would have been considered need level prior to the pandemic, would have had their situations changed. And so they were quite flexible in who qualified to receive those funds, even outside of the CARES Act, which I thought was really important. And I think something else that is very important to mention that some students were affected by were their lease terms. When the pandemic occurred, many students went back home because most of our instruction was online. Well, our entirety of our instruction was online. And so there was a lot of uncertainty of regarding whether or not students would have to return. Students weren't sure if they should sign a lease to an apartment for the fall. So that was something that a lot of students had to grapple with and affected them financially. And I think because everything was such in flux, it was difficult to communicate what was going to happen, which is the difficulty of this pandemic, because there are a lot of people being affected financially, and things aren't as transparent as they could be, but things are changing so much that it's hard to understand what the next what's going to happen next and how to prepare for it. So I think that's definitely a challenge that a lot of students had during this, or are continuing to have during this pandemic, and dealing with that financially.
And the next question I have is for Ganaelle and Ern. So there are some students who are considering transferring to community colleges and to save on tuition, and some students who are considering and deferring their education and not continuing this fall semester or spring semester. As a medical student and an international student, what are your thoughts on that, and what do you advise them doing? I'll go with Ganaelle first.
Yes, as a medical student, it's very difficult to defer because you spend so much money, so much time since you're working towards this as a child to become a doctor, and you're finally got into a school. And there is no scenario where you would say to yourself, I'm going to delay it by a year, considering the fact that medical school is so hard to get. It's say 1% students apply, get in, that once you defer, there's someone else on the waiting list who will replace you, not guaranteed a role the following year. So it's a very risky situation. And let's say, for example, if you're enrolled, but you haven't started officially on the campus, but your loan's already been dispersed to you. So now you still owe that money, that the loan that you have. It's very difficult to withdraw, and you still have to pay the fees to activate the loan. This is still your responsibility. Can you even afford that? So in a medical school level, I don't think that's a possibility.
Thank you for that. And Ern, what are your thoughts on that?
As an international student and a Haitian, it's very difficult making that transition already, moving to a new country and actually to pursue your studies. So I would consider every international student, before making that decision, that big decision of dropping, explore your options. Recently, I was reading a report from the IIE, which is the International Institute of International Education. And as of last year, we had approximately 960 students, international students, Haitians, studying here in the U.S. And for this fall, we were not expecting much at all. And as said, I'm sure there's always options out there. Try to explore your resources. Even the IEE was providing assistance for international students. And before I came, a year ago, if it wasn't for research, I wouldn't actually know about the resources that are available from the NAAHP. And I would say I can't provide blank hope, but there's always some resources out there. Before you make any decision, try to explore your options. It's also an opportunity for me to advise international students. You're dealing with a different set of challenges being here in the U.S. That's why it's always great. Try to find folks that share the same frame of reference and experience that can provide you the resources and guidance in order for you to actually develop your career and be successful here.
Thank you for that, Ern. So we're going to go to the next topic. And this topic, I feel like, is important with everything that has been going on with COVID-19, police brutality, Black Lives Matter movement. Is being a student and going through a pandemic, a race war, and everything, and it affecting your mental health and your well-being. Not only that, we touched base on this a little bit earlier, is it's overwhelming because it's a lot of us, our first time doing virtual learning. Not only that, some of the programs that we're in is a little bit challenging. So it affects our academic and affects our well-being, our mental health. So what are some tips and advice you can give to students who are currently virtually learning? I know Sandina and Ern touched on this a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and start with Sammy. What are some tips that you can advise students on with virtual learning and their well-being and mental health?
Well, being that, as you said, all those topics you said, with the racial injustice, the global pandemic, I think the one thing I did is disconnect. You always have to disconnect. Information overload is real. We are the crash dummies for technology. So we don't know, Harvard's going to come out and report in 50 years of what technology and social media really did to us as human beings. So I think it's very, very important to disconnect during these times. If you have to fast from social media, I think that's important because it's just so much coming and it's so much emotions. Everyone is quarantined. Everyone is social distancing. So I think that's super, super important. That's what I try to make sure, because every day felt the same. I didn't know if it was Monday or Sunday. Every day felt the same. So I made sure I found time to disconnect. Got close to all my family members. I think they helped me. They were a backbone, them being there for me. And I know it's hard. From FIU, we had CAPS. That's the psychologist. So I can just every Tuesday or every other Tuesday, I got on the phone with a psychologist, and that's what I really needed to help me get through, because it was really that difficult, everything going on. So I think disconnecting is probably my number one point. Yeah.
Thank you so much for that. And Tesha, what are your thoughts on this issue? What are some tips you can advise some students?
Yeah, I definitely agree with everything that Sammy said. Something that I found very helpful was also connecting more to my family. I spoke with my mother and my sister a lot during, or even now during the pandemic. Also, going on walks, of course, keeping your mask on and staying safe, socially distancing is important. But I think not staying inside all the time, every day, really helped me. Getting fresh air. Getting some sun is also really good. And like I said before, right now, a lot of people are saying, take advantage of this time, be the most productive you can be. And this is a very difficult time, so it's okay if you're not. I think it's important to understand that this is something that a lot of people have never been through before. It's not something that's easy. It's okay to be kind to yourself, offer yourself some grace. And I think that's like been the most important thing for me to get through this. Just trying to do well and be active as much as I can, and staying connected to the people that are closest to me.
Thank you so much for that. So there are some students who have become very depressed and unhappy due to the fact that they're missing out on once in a lifetime experiences such as prom, graduating high school, graduating college, graduating grad school, medical school, whatever the case may be. So what are some advice that you can give those students that are going through those hard times? Are you guys currently experiencing any issues like that where you missed out on graduating or anything like that? You can go ahead and speak, Ganaelle, on this issue if
I guess during COVID, what I realized is how much I underappreciated my friend group, that I just see them every day, talk to them, but never understood what value they brought to me. And not being able to leave your house, that you have to go out of your way to connect with people who are important to you. Like for me, for example, I made a list of people I want to talk to, I want to connect with, friends I lost touch with 5 years ago, 10 years ago. and we've had video chat for an hour, coffee, we planned it out ahead of time. We order the same food, different states, so that deliver at the same time, so that you can feel some sort of camaraderie to wherever you are. And I feel like having people to talk to, whether it's venting or just catching up on someone you haven't seen in a long time, is very helpful in making sure you stay grounded and to stave off feelings of depression. And I also recommend like making a schedule for yourself. What do you want to accomplish today? What is accomplished means to you? Does it mean going for a walk today? Does it mean cooking a meal? That there are so many different things that accumulated over the COVID times, aside from not being able to get some fresh air, that definitely could contribute to depression and poor mental health.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And Sandina, did the COVID-19 affect anything that you needed to do as far as graduating, missing out any once in a lifetime opportunities, and what are some advice that you can give students who are currently going through that?
Personally, I am a very social person, so definitely being able to be on campus, seeing my friends, going out to have fun is definitely important to me. So I did miss that a lot. But I was able to see some friends, obviously, of course, making sure, we were being safe and nobody was sick. But for anyone who have missed, let's say, prom or graduation, I would say don't let your life be defined by that moment, the fact that you missed it. I know that it's a once in a lifetime opportunity, but, there is no way that we could have avoided that and to enjoy the opportunity that you have. For instance, I know many graduations ended up being virtual. So I would say just make the best of that and actually embrace it rather than just, isolating yourself and feel like, oh my God, I missed this. My life is a mess. I didn't go to prom. It's okay because it's not your fault. It's not anything that you did, and there's nothing that you could have done. So just really, just let go a little bit and just embrace what our new normal is, I like to call it. So that's definitely one of the advice that I would give, and also to make sure to take a day every week or 2 days if you can to really dedicate that day to yourself. Like, what are some things that I can do today to make me feel better? And to piggyback on what Sammy said, definitely disconnecting and staying off social media for a while, or just simply, if you want to stay on social media, filter what information that you're consuming. With Twitter, you can block certain hashtags and topics. Definitely do that to make sure that what you're consuming is not having any negative effect on your mental health.
Thank you so much for that. And lastly, I want to get Ern on this topic. What are your thoughts and some advice that you can give those students going through hard times right now?
First of all, I want to start by saying seek professional counseling. Be honest with yourself, please. Seek professional counseling, and as Sammy mentioned, and all of the panelists mentioned previously, stay connected and commit to your community, whatever this may look like to you, whether it's your close friends, your family, your Haitian friends, your international students. Stay connected. As all this happening in the country, as a international student living in Kentucky, I had to find a way to navigate through all this. And one thing I kind of tricked my brain to do was, okay, first of all, try to understand people's upbringing. I'm not gonna actually have this fight. I'm gonna approach it from my own perspective, and I'm gonna stay connected to my community, stay loyal to them. And from a bigger perspective, I continue to do my part, whether it's involved in organizations that are helping others. So lastly is, as Sandina mentioned, don't take it personal. Ask yourself the question, did I do my best? And if you can honestly answer this question, I did my best. And it's not your fault that you didn't have an actual graduation or you couldn't go to prom. And also remember, it could have been worse.
Thank you so much for that. Well, that concludes the end of all the topics. I want to open the floor for any questions that anyone may have for the panelists or any questions that they just want to ask. So the first question we have is, has anyone's school made concrete changes as a result of the racially motivated civil unrest that we experienced this year? And this is from Bree.
I can speak to that one. For my school, Johns Hopkins University, specifically the School of Medicine, we recently started to implement implicit bias training for medical students, physicians, and faculty at the School of Medicine. So that's something that's been happening, and I know that the Student National Medical Association, SNMA, which is a student group of Black students, has been working with the administration to address certain issues and to implement anti-racism curriculum into what we are learning. So there has been a lot of movement on that front. Just at my school personally, but I do know that a lot of medical students, specifically other SNMA chapters, have been working with their school, creating lists of demands to make sure that their own universities are taking seriously these issues and making sure that they're being held accountable and making an honest effort to address those issues.
Anyone else want to say anything on and answer that question? No. Is there another question? Okay. Have you been able to reach out to other Haitian students in your school?
Well, I mean, as I said earlier, FIU sponsored NAAHP a few times when it comes to the sponsoring because the annual conference took place at FIU in 2018. We do have Haitian. We had two on-campus Haitian student organizations, but they since merged. It was split by campus. It was split by the South Campus and the Biscayne Bay Campus. They since merged. I think FIU had, and then when I initially went to NAAHP, the president of the student union at FIU was Haitian. And he actually spoke at NAAHP when I first went to that event. So yes, FIU I know has a ton of Haitian students. I know if you go to the FIU library in Biscayne Bay campus and you go to the 4th floor, you will see all Haitian textbooks since the 1800s. It's great, the real history. So check it out.
Anyone else want to answer that question?
I'll go. I feel like being in a big institute like a medical school system, especially in the Northeast, there are that many Haitians in general in the area. I would say about the 4 students who are Haitian on campus, I know them very well already. We're already best friends. So I don't have to go out of my way to reach out to them. We already have that community going. But in terms of the school system, what we're discussing with the institution is that to make sure that they look at the applicants very closely when they're applying to medical school, they don't just brush off someone who is a great candidate to become a doctor. And especially here at NYMC, one of our deans is Asian American. So he's taking that leadership role himself to be the mentor for the Black Student Union to help advocate for what we've been asking for several years now. And because he has that authority, he has that voice to amplify what we're asking for. And one of the things we're discussing is that we want Black students to come here to our school, not somewhere else. And one of the things that is finances. There are other schools that may offer a different aid package, more scholarship for them to go elsewhere. We are trying very hard to make sure they come here instead, that we offer a better deal, that they can have a place here on our campus and not elsewhere.
Thank you for that question. And for anyone who's looking for Haitian student organizations, definitely you could Google or search on Instagram your university's name and put Haitian Student Organization or Haitian Student Association to be able to find any organization where it's Haitian students if you're having issues finding, those people, that crowd, by the way. Is there any other questions for the panelists?
It's a question on the chat, Anith.
Oh, there is.
Yeah.
Okay, what are some advice for first-generation college students starting college during a pandemic?
I would go ahead and say definitely it is your opportunity. You know, you're the first person in your family to be able to go to college. Even though we are going through unprecedented times right now, but take this as an opportunity for you to pursue your dream. Don't let the pandemic stop you. I've been saying that a lot. Don't let the pandemic stop any plans that you had, unless it had to do, you know, with being out there and being with a lot of people. Then yeah, that has to stop. But otherwise, you should still follow your dreams and work as hard as you can, but also give yourself grace, because what you're about to go through, you've never gone through that before. So definitely keep your dreams in mind and stay motivated and stay inspired, but also give yourself grace.
Thank you. Anybody else want to say anything and answer that question?
I would say overall, being Haitian, we always say that education is number one, and our parents tell us that from day one. But as a first generation student, when you're in college, even though you've been admitted, you feel like an imposter, like you don't know how you got this far or why you're still here. And not being on a campus, having that camaraderie with your friends may make you feel more excluded. And this is a place where I would say mentorship is very important. That find any professor and say, I want to learn more about you, about your career, and get someone to can motivate you and reassure you that you belong where you are and that you're doing very well, and that being a first generation student in the first place is already an accomplishment, and that you have so many more things you can do just by staying on that route. Don't get discouraged and drop out or stay to yourself.
Okay, thank you so much for that. And Sandy Joe says finances definitely play a huge part in deterring students from attending top colleges and universities as first generation students, or, you know, incoming freshmen. So what are your thoughts on that as far as students not being able to go to top colleges and universities?
I'll make a plug. I'm currently on the NAAHP Scholarship Committee. So there is funds from this organization here for students to apply while they're in college or graduate school or any other level, that we want to support each other, that you should definitely, if you find it online, just Google NAAHP Haitian American Scholarship. There are funds out here to help you meet your goals.
Thank you.
We love reading the applications.
Thank you for that. Anyone else want to talk about that or say anything about what Sandy Jo said?
Yeah, that's definitely an issue. Like Ganaelle mentioned earlier, some colleges definitely have to, I don't know what we're going to have to do to have them, you know, offer bigger packages to students and giving them more scholarships so that they are able, because, you know, right now it's a little bit limited, especially in minorities, you know, Black and Afro Latinos. We have limited resources. So, and I feel like the schools are not really doing that much. They're not really going out of their way to help those students. So they definitely do have to do better when it comes to that.
Thank you for that. And one last question. How do you balance being focused on your studies, particularly in, I cannot see, an expensive program such as medical school? I guess this is for medical students.
Sorry, can you repeat the first part of the question?
Okay. I cannot. Okay. So Sandy Jo says, I am a director at a medical school in NYC, and I find that our first year students are finding it difficult to stay motivated. How do you balance being focused on your studies, particularly in a medical program? An expensive program, by the way.
Yeah, I think around this time it's much more difficult to stay motivated, but I think a lot of what the panelists said prior is really important. staying connected with family and friends. I know personally I like to have like study sessions over Zoom with some friends. I may not get a lot of studying done, but it definitely motivates me to have somebody to talk to about like certain topics that we're going over in class. And then after that study session, it'll motivate me to look into whatever subject we're diving into more. So that's definitely something that I've been doing. In terms of the expenses of a program, I think it's also really important to consider that, because it is difficult when you're having to deal with financial challenges during the pandemic, and also having to study and maintain good grades while in medical school. I know that a lot of students have been trying to take advantage of as many scholarships as they can, looking into research opportunities that actually pay well, and that it's not just like a volunteer opportunity, that you're actually getting paid for your work. And a lot of students have been reaching out to administration to make sure that more of those opportunities are available, because it's really important at a time like this. So I think that's, I hope that answered the question.
Thank you so much. I want to say that's the last question from the people in the audience. You guys were great. You guys were wonderful. I want to shout out the sponsors one last time. I want to shout out the Golden V Inc. I want to shout out Coella, and I want to shout out Hopes and Happiness Community Empowerment Inc. The goal of this panel was to discuss the best practice and recommendations to succeed with the new norm while we're going through COVID-19. I feel like you guys all did great. You touched on different things that each student, whether they're undergraduate or graduate students, will take from, even international students, medical school students, and everything like that. Is there anything that you would like to say before we end the live? This is your time now. Go ahead.
Just, as a graduate, I love education. Education is the best investment that you can make. And hey, it's just crazy that we're going to a virtual world. They have all these virtual jobs out here. So it's just like we're preparing, because in a few years, they'll have all these virtual jobs, and then we can go back to Haiti and be making our six-figure virtual jobs right in Haiti.
That is true. It has definitely gave a better transition to working from home, because before, jobs made it seem like you couldn't work from home, and obviously you can. We have the technology to do so. So it definitely will help in the future, I would say. Anyone else have any last words to say to the people? Go ahead, Ganaelle.
I would say we're currently going through a rough patch in life in general, health-wise, social-wise, education-wise, but this is our time. And the only way to look forward, and because as a student, you've gotten this far, which means you can do so many other things. This is not the time to despair. It's the time to build yourself up and build your family and your circle to make sure you're your best. And there's no reason to be moving backward. And the other part is to vote in this coming election. It's very important, whatever your belief is.
Definitely. I definitely agree. Anyone else have any last words? Go ahead, Sandina.
All right. Yes, definitely do your best. Like Ganaelle said, you've gotten this far. It is not the time to, move backwards and to look down on yourself. Definitely keep moving no matter what the difficulties are. And to go back on what Ern said earlier, there are always some kind of resources available out there. You just have to go look for them. So definitely reach out if you're having any issues. Reach out to your school, other leaders in your community to see what's out there for you. And definitely plan, because it is not it is not going well right now. It's only like the second week of school, and a lot of students are complaining about it being overwhelming. So do take time for yourself and take a break, but definitely get your work done.
Thank you so much, Tesha and Ern. Any last words for us before we end?
Well, I would say, especially,
Yeah.
that's
Sorry.
the second time. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tesha.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, I agree with what everybody previously said. I think it's incredibly important to stay connected, reach out to people, especially potential mentors. Definitely don't give up on things that you were hoping to do before. Unfortunatthere, now that everything's moved virtually, we'll have to adapt to different ways of doing things, but there are ways to change things up to make sure that you can still work on like certain projects that you were hoping to get done. So yeah, just don't give up, stay connected, and reach out to people.
And Ern, what are your last words?
I would say, especially to my international students or particularly Haitians, seek mentorship. Get to know your professors. That's the best thing you could do because you never know. Try to know your professors, seek mentorship, and as I mentioned earlier, as international students, you're playing a whole different ball game. You're navigating through different issues, and it's important to try your best to get all the resources possible so you can enhance your experience here and get the resources so you can actually develop your professional career here. And the last thing I want to add is stay connect. Keep on checking the posts of whatever's happening back home. Stay connected to your community so you can get involved and implicate in what's happening in your country and try to influence whatever that's policies, whatever that social culture or issues. But stay connected and always check the post.
Thank you so much. And I want to say one last thing with COVID-19, as students, as people who are working, everything slowed down. And I want to say for me, it helped a lot. It helped with being overwhelmed and having anxiety. So I actually appreciate this time that we have where everything's slowing down. So definitely take advantage of how slow everything is to catch up with academics, to catch up with your goals, to catch up with anything that you want to do in your, in the future to manifest your goals and everything like that. Definitely take advantage because as soon as everything gets back to normal, everything is going to be fast paced again. And if you take advantage of this time, you will be, the transition will be just a little bit smoother when everything, goes back to normal. So I just want to say, take advantage of this time. It's not really a bad thing in my eyes. I don't know about everyone else, but yeah, thank you all for joining us. Thank you to the panelists. You guys were great. Thank you for the National Alliance in Advancement of Haitian Professionals for having us. Thank you so much for everyone who is watching everywhere. So yeah, that's all. Bye.